ended abruptly. It was supposed to fade, and it didn't fade. Okay, well, we'll have to work on that the next time. Don't know why. Anyway, this is the Mac to the Future live cast. This is episode 8, and it is titled "Don't Touch ID Me There." Us older folk will get that reference. Probably can't mention the song since it's copyright protection. Lots of stuff to talk about this week, and a couple different topics that have come up in the Facebook group. And, you know, I don't actually have this in the show notes, but real quick, can we all please just try to get along? You know, I mean, I know the temptation to sometimes take certain questions that for some people is very, very obvious and for other people is not. That's the reason why they're asking the question. So if it's, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a little snarky, you know, I mean, just having some fun. But at the same time, if somebody's asking a legitimate question and you know the answer and you think it's stupid, just don't say anything at all, you know, let it go and other people will answer the question. Off my soapbox. I won't go too much into that. Yeah, this is the Mac to the Future podcast. I am your host, Guy Searle, and I hope you all are having a wonderful week. So, and I think I'm just going to jump right into it. Something that happened just a day or so ago. A lot of the apps that Apple used to sell in the iWork and iLife suites, not counting the ones, of course, that are dearly departed, like iWeb and iDVD, are now free. And for people that are, how do I turn on my Mac? Yeah, funny, Mike. For people that are relatively new to the platform, if you bought a new Mac, you got all of these apps for free. The problem was if you had like an older version on your what was once new Mac, then you had to pay for them, and the prices varied between $9.99 and $19.99, but now they're all free. So, like I said, these were the old iLife and iWork suites. Now, a lot of it you didn't really have to pay for anyway if you had an iCloud account. If you could use Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, those were all available through iCloud. But the desktop features, quite frankly, were more fully featured. There's a lot of things that you can do on the desktop version that you can't do on the web version. And I don't know if that's because Apple can't figure out how to do it, or if it's just easier to put features like that in the regular desktop version. Now, besides Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, you also got iMovie. Hey, Marcus Benjamin and Warren Sklar. Hi guys. Besides the iWork stuff, you also got GarageBand and iMovie. And for people that aren't podcasters, the GarageBand is probably one of the easiest to use DAWs that are out there today, DAW being Digital Audio Workstation. It's not as fully featured as a lot of the other ones, but at the same time, it's easy enough to use so that most novices can just pick it up and roll with it, which is why on the Mac side, it's that and Audacity. It's like the two digital audio workstations of choice. But, you know, on the other hand, some of the other apps, Pages is a pretty good word processor, and its collaboration features, while hardly best in class, are good enough for most use. Numbers has a lot of fans, and there are a lot of people on the Mac side that would prefer PowerPoint over Keynote. And as I was saying, I've tried a lot of different DAWs over the years, but I keep coming back to GarageBand for its ease of use and power. And I know some people also like iMovie. I'm quite honestly not a fan. I don't think iMovie is that good. I don't think it's been that good since probably since they changed the interface. I guess it was 7 or 8 years ago. Real quick, going to say hi to a couple of people. Sonny Matters is in the house. Hi, Sonny. Ed Eisen says, hola, hola, ¿cómo está? And Brian Monroe says that Ed Eisen says hi. Okay. And, oh, no, Jeff, you can't leave. You can't say ciao before we've even gotten started. Anyway, so now all of these apps are free. And it doesn't matter if you have a new Mac, you've bought an old Mac, or you have an older Mac that can run these programs. Just go ahead and download them. Hi. Oh, I don't even know if I can pronounce that. Iogan Doyle. Do me a favor, put that in like phonetic spelling for me, because yet I am a product of the public education system of South Florida from the 70s. So, yeah, I need help. Ed Eisen says, same with GarageBand. I don't like the new one beyond 605. There was a lot of tools in GarageBand that dealt strictly with podcasting. And, you know, I think that they I don't really know why they took those out, and I'm not sure if they'll ever put them back in. Johan, is that how that's pronounced? Johan Doyle? That's how Ed would have pronounced it. Okay. That's cool. So, God, I love doing this show. It's so much fun when you guys come on board, and I can see I see the comments, and now you have to remember that you're actually replying to something I said about 10 seconds ago, which is why it takes me 10 seconds to see your comments, because you're just seeing it, and then another 10 seconds from the time that you post them until you hear me reply to them. So okay, so we got here. I'm going to stick with this for a little bit. Brian Monroe says that he's had clients who have problems getting up to speed on the new iMovie UI. Well, it's not so much new. It's been what they've had for a long time, but I think that Apple took the ease of use out of it when they went to the code base, the same code base that Final Cut Pro has. And I think that's too bad, because a lot of people liked iMovie mostly for its simplicity. And when you take that out without really giving much chance to help people that haven't used the kind of user interface that iMovie has now, they're just not going to get it, and they're going to go and they're going to try to find something else that meets their needs. And of course, then you go back to, there's a lot of different movie editors in the Mac App Store. Some of them have that same simplicity. And I'm a big fan, not of iMovie, but of creating video content. And obviously, I've been putting this online now for 2 months, but I don't use iMovie. I've got Adobe Premiere Elements, which is, I have the 15th version. I've had previous versions before, and when Apple has updated their operating system, Adobe would make some changes, coincidentally, just after they came out with the next version of Premiere Elements, and all of a sudden, the previous version wouldn't work anymore. So I've kind of said that this was Adobe's last chance, and if they do it again, then I'm definitely going to have to look for other options, because I'm tired of playing this game where it's like, oh, well, it's security updates, or it's something that is going to enhance this or enhance that. Oh, it doesn't work with the latest OS. Oh, it doesn't work with the previous OS. We don't know what happened. You should just go ahead and buy the next version. That's kind of Adobe's game, or at least it seems that way with their Element stuff. They kind of want to force you to use their prescription model, and I'm not really a fan of the prescription model. It just seems like it's, unless it's something you use all the time, it just seems like money down a rat hole. If I buy an application And there's nothing in the new version of the operating system that broke it. That program should keep working, as far as I'm concerned. But speaking of old programs, there's something really, really cool that happened over at archive.org. And subscription, not prescription, right? Prescription is probably what I'm on right now. But over at archive.org, they've taken some of the older Mac software that I haven't seen in 15 to 20 years, and you can now play it right in a browser on your Mac. And the link to it is archive.org/details/software library Mac. And for people who haven't seen a lot of these programs, if you've ever wondered what it was like to use the Mac OS in the old days, it looked a lot different than what it does today, but you can still kind of see the inspiration that led to OS 10. Even OS 10 from the early 2000s, like 10.1 to 10.4, 10.5, looks pretty different than what it does today. And while time machines are impossible, let me take you on a little journey back to a simpler time with 8-bit black and white graphics on a 9-inch monitor, limited amounts of RAM and processing power. Code had to be tight, and considering what was available, some people did amazing things. And as I said, where can you find it? Archive.org. You can experience the boot up process of System 6 and System 7. You can go to the dungeons of the Dark Castle. And there was a game, oh my God, I played the crap out of this game when it came out. It was called Crystal Quest. And a real simple game. You had like on your screen, it was a two-dimensional kind of thing. You had what looked like two little hockey goals, and then another one on the very bottom. And there would be all these crystals all over the screen. And you would have to use your mouse to move your little guy all over the place, and you'd have to avoid mines, and you had like a little shooter where you could shoot the bad guys that are coming out after you. So you'd have to get all the crystals, and then once you had all the crystals, you'd try to drop down into this little hole. And there were all different kinds of bad guys. And sorry, excuse me. And considering what they had to work with, this was such a fun game. I had such a great time with Crystal Quest. But Crystal Quest isn't the only thing they have. Besides Dark Castle, they also had Shuffle Puck, which is kind of an air hockey game. Frogger, old-time arcadists will know what that game is. And they also had things like Mac Paint, Mac Write, some of the older versions of not Adobe software, of Microsoft software. Obviously, I'm still on my subscriptions or prescriptions, whichever one it is. But it really, really is a lot of fun. Check that out over at archive.org, and you will be amazed at the kind of software that we had to deal with a long time ago. And before I go to break, we have lots of comments tonight, and thank you so very much, everyone. Ed Eisen, Adobe RX Take One Tablet QD. Ed Eisen, Mac Archive site is awesome. Warren Sklar says it was horrible. Owen Doyle, God, you screwed up your first name, now I'm screwing up your last name. Owen Doyle says, lost an hour on that site this evening. Did you get a chance to play Crystal Quest? What a great game. Brian Monroe says, parts of it were awesome and other parts were horrid. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times. Now, I was doing digital video back then, and I can't remember the name of the program I used to use, but it was a multi-track editor. And this was under System 8 and System 9. And you would spend an hour working with keyframes and getting everything just right. And under System 8 and System 9, you really, really had to save as often as you possibly could, because every once in a while, the program would crash. And when the program would crash, it would usually take the operating system with it. So you would have to reboot the machine, and everything you've done since your last save, gone. Let's see. Shuffle Puck was cool. Yes, it was, Marcus. Still better than Windows. It was still better than Windows. We're talking Windows 3.1. We're talking Windows 95, Windows 98. Yeah, it was still better. HyperCard. I never really got into HyperCard. I couldn't really grasp what it was I was going to do with it, so I didn't mess around with it too much. Ed Eisen says that cooperative multitasking had its benefits. Yes. Lack of protected memory had zero benefits. Very true. Owen Doyle says he's literally searching for Crystal Quest right now. Well, wait until the Mac of the Future livecast is over before you go play Crystal Quest. It'll still be there. I swear to God. Netscape used to crash and take down a system all the time. Yes, it did. And even before the something a lot of people don't know is that when Steve Jobs introduced the iMac, he also did a couple of other things. He had in order to clear up all of the lawsuits that have been going back and forth for more than 10 years at that point between Microsoft and Apple, they came to an agreement between the two of them. And I'm simplifying this as much as I can. And basically, Apple agreed to drop all the lawsuits. Microsoft gave Apple a certain amount of cash for copyright violations, or maybe it was patent violations concerning QuickTime. And Microsoft also agreed to continue to update Microsoft Office for the Mac, which in my mind was probably the most important part of that, because at the time, the Mac OS share was down to like 2%. The Mac was almost dead, and that was something that was seriously needed. And Microsoft came through, but that also meant that we got, as the default browser, Internet Explorer. So you take the good with the bad. Cletus Heap says, hi, guy. Hi, Cletus. How's it going? Suds Car, is that right? Says, Crystal Quest is available on Steam. Nowhere near the classic one, though. So it's a different game than the Crystal Quest that's on Steam is like a different game than what we used to see. I wasn't aware of that. Oh, let me put this up. Let's see where we're at. Oh, we have 2 likes. Yay! Bill Heinemans, who I don't know who that is, Cletus. If you could put some remarks in there, and we'll get that straightened out. Anyway, we are at almost 20 minutes, so I think we're going to take a little break. And when we come, you know what? I haven't even gotten to. We're not going to take a break yet. I haven't even gotten to the thing that the title of the show is about here. For those who've been following the rumor mill on the next version of the iPhone, and whether that's going to be the iPhone 8 or the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X, who knows, or the 7S, or don't really know. But there's a man by the name of Andy Hargraves. He's an equity research analyst at Pacific Crest Security, and he says that Apple might leave off the Touch ID sensor if they can't resolve some unspecified problems with putting it underneath the glass for the phone. In other news, Andy Hargraves, equity research analyst at Pacific Crest Security, may be on drugs. To wit, look at Apple's financials over the last few years and look at how much they are making in services. It's huge. And Apple Pay is a growing part of it, which won't work well without the Touch ID sensor. And I mean, we have no idea really what the next phone is going to look like, or what new features that they're going to put in it. But they will not release an iPhone without some kind of Touch ID sensor. Anyone saying differently should not be believed. And just before we go, we're going to jump on this one more time. Sunny Matara says, Die Hard movie break And, you know, I'm sorry, Sonny, I wasn't able to get the puppets ready. So you'll have to just pretend that this is Bruce Willis and he's crawling through and talking about he'd rather be in Philadelphia. Yeah, that's all I got. Ed says he doesn't buy. I can't say that, but he doesn't buy drugs. Cletus Heap says that Bill Heinzman is a programmer, actually now known as Rebecca. Did a ton of Apple II GS and Mac games. Warren Sklar says it detects farts. Well, it's a good thing it's not here. They talked about this on, Brian Monroe says they talked about it on the Apple Insider podcast. No way will they put it on the back or remove it. I know the Samsung is, I guess the Galaxy 8 series has it on the back. Oh, you don't have to censor yourself, Ed. I just won't say it on the podcast. You can say all those bad words, or you can, type in all those bad words. That's fine. But yeah, Brian, there's no way that Apple would do that. And I don't know if they're going to incorporate it in the glass. I don't know if it's still going to be in a bezel on the bottom. But, the phone is going to have a Touch ID. And there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And we're going to take a little break here. I swear, this time it's true. We're going to take a break. When we come back, there's two things that I saw on the Mac to the Future Facebook page this week that I wanted to talk about, other than what I talked about earlier. Ooh, 6 likes. I like that. And so when we come back, that's what we'll talk about. We'll be right back.
This is Private Eye Macintosh, and I'm here to tell you about a book written about me and my search for the Maltese Cube. Yes, it's a fine book. I think you should get it. Quiet, you. It combines technology, Mac trivia, action, murder, suspense. Oh, just tell them where to get it. I'll get to that. Romance, film noir detective fiction. I can't stand it anymore. It's called The Maltese Cube, and it was written by my Mac writer and podcaster Guy Searle. Find it on Amazon. It's only $2.99 and coming soon to the Apple's iBook store. Don't forget, it's The Maltese Cube and so inexpensive. You know you're not in it, right? I'm in the next one, right? Sure thing, Louie. This could be the start of a beautiful friendship. Get the Maltese Cube on Amazon and soon in the iBook store.
Hey, oh, for God's sake. Yeah, for whatever reason, Just Broadcaster, I praised it last week, and now it's not doing transitions like it's supposed to. Maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. Go figure. My counter is broke. My counter isn't broken. My counter is just fine. I'll bring it up here and prove it to you. See? Oh. All right. Maybe it is broken. Okay. So, two things about this week, or two things I saw on Mac to the Future page this week that I wanted to talk about. One was from Charles Reed, and he was talking about his new family edition and that he'd been wanting one of these for years. It's crazy how cheap these Mac Pros have gotten. This will be my 4K re-encode box and server. Anyone with video card upgrade suggestions, please let me know. Thanks. And what he had a picture of was a 2012 3.336 core Mac Pro for $949 plus shipping, which for this machine, that's a good price. And Ty Tyson suggested a place called Mac Vid Cards, and he says it's the number one place for Mac Pro graphics cards, GPU upgrades from AMD and NVIDIA. Austin Child says anything NVIDIA would be good, but if you go AMD, the thing will melt. Carl K, they've got two at the office, and to be honest, they're just too big. I use an iMac instead. And, and there's nothing wrong with using an iMac. An iMac with quad-core i7 plenty powerful for what most people need them for. Lincoln Taylor says he runs 2 of them, keeps his feet warm in the winter. Dakota says they have the Pascal beta driver so that you could put a 1000 series GTX card in your Mac Pro. I was not aware of that. I wonder, let's see, Brian, God, I'm so awful with names. Carasio? He says that it's big news as any 1000X series card would work on a Mac. No more hunting around for Mac-specific cards. Yeah, because flashing a video card is a royal pain in the neck. Ed Eisen says it's always weird for me to see these things. The design will always represent the G5, despite the fact that it was a Mac Pro for far longer. Charles Reed says that he owned a water-cooled G5. Oh, I'd forgotten. Yeah. Apple had a water-cooled G5 back in the day. The G5 ran so hot that it was the only way they could. And I think it wasn't long after that they went Intel. Ed Eisen says that his first Big Mac purchase was the 2.3 gigahertz G5. His thought was that he wanted a desktop with both stupid power and no water cooling. And he was feeling dread and disappointment to learn about Intel a year later. I actually found another place to go for Mac Pro upgrades. It's called iBuild Macs. That's ibuildmacs.com. And one of the things that I may do, because I've got a 2010 Mac Pro 2.8 quad core, and from looking at some specs, I can almost double the performance of this machine by going to a 6-core, which, and real fast, the reason why, if you have a quad core Mac Pro, you can go as high as, for that, whatever model year it is, if it's available, up to a 12-core. The problem is there were 2 processor boards for the Mac Pro. There was the one for the quad and 6-core chips, and then there was one for the 12-core. And the big difference between them, the one that was 4 and 6 had 1 processor, and the one that was 12-core had 2. So it's a physical difference in this board, and it's relatively easy to swap. I mean, it's just a couple of little clips that you hit, and then you just pull the whole processor assembly out. However, getting a processor is relatively cheap. Even though Xeons are pretty expensive. But in order to go from a 4/6 core to a 12 core, and you have to get the entire little board that the processor sits on, and the price jump goes from like $400 to $600 all the way up to $1,500 to go to a 12 core. So, I'll stick with doubling my processing power for like 450 to 550, and I'll leave the 12 cores alone. The next thing was from Darren Pelfrey. It's another Mac Pro thing. He says, "Is this a good deal or too old to bother?" It's a 2.26 Mac Pro dual quad Xeon Mac Pro 4,1. These came out in 2009. Warren wasn't that impressed with it. Ed Benton says, "Save your money, keep saving, buy the new modular Mac Pro next year." Darren responded with, "It would probably be $3,000 and up, though." Ed Benton says, "The value proposition still beats $600 on prehistoric hardware. Those old cheese graters made sense when the trash can was the future. Now we know something better is coming." And yes and no. Charles Reed says he actually bought one off eBay, $949 for the 6-core 3.33. They're still very upgradable, which they are. Look for a 2010 or better yet a 2012. I kind of said don't go with the 2009 model, the 4,1, any of the 4,1s. And the reason being, you buy a machine like this and you expect, Xeon processors and mega RAM and, you know, all this storage. And you think, I'm going to use this thing for years. Well, the problem is the 4.1s will limit you to OS 10, 10.11, unless you, I saw that there was a link I saw somewhere online where you could change the firmware of a 4.1 to change it to a 5.1. Problem with that is if you make a mistake or if something doesn't go exactly the way that you think it should, you end up with the world's biggest paperweight. And the price difference between a 4.1 and a 5.1, if you need something the size of a Mac Pro, I don't think is enough to take that chance. I would rather spend a little more and make sure that whatever I got was going to at least see me through to at least one more OS, maybe two. And chances are the 2010 to 2012 Mac Pros, the 5.1s, have a limited lifespan as far as OS updates go. But let's face it, this is now a 5 to 7 year old computer. And there's not too many computers out there that are running the latest operating system, you know, outside of Macs, that are that old. So if you can stretch it out for a little while longer, that would be the way to go. Paul Burt said that he got a 12-core mid-2010 he's trying to help a client sell, but he doesn't want to ship it if possible. Understand, these things are massive. Ed Benton says that he wouldn't be surprised at all if Apple does a little heavy-handed obsoleting with the cheese grater Mac Pros once the next Mac Pro is released. And yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. You know, Apple's in this to make money, and if they can do a little something to entice you to update to a newer machine, I don't think that should surprise anyone. Over in the chats, Warren Sklar says Ty loves Google too. Brian Moreau says that Ty Tyson knows that Google's TNC should be ignored. Nothing to see here. He also says that he's not so sure something better is coming. Just something new is coming at some point in the future. Cletus says that he thinks that Apple will do a new machine, but not too sure how big it will be. If it's going to be as useful to the pro market, because let's face it, the pros have been screaming since 2013, and the 2015 MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar just made them scream even louder, even though, in my opinion, that's still a very nice machine. So I think that the next Mac Pro will have the ability to I don't think you'll either be able to put in or use spinning hard drives or the 3.5-inch form factor storage devices. I think it's going to be, you know, strictly the small factor SSDs. So I think there'll be at least 2 slots for SSDs. I think you'll be able to put in up to, or maybe even exceed, 64 gigs of RAM. I think you'll be able to put in a full-size video card in it. Now, what the form factor will be, I know some people have talked about, well, you know, Mac Mini size, and I saw something online with this thing that like popped out in 2 different places. No idea. But it won't be what we have now, and it will be more module than the Mac Pro that was released in 2013. So, I mean, nobody really knows. I'm sure Apple is building prototypes and doing what they can to make it all work. And we will see what they show us next year. Now, there's what I've seen called the iMac Pro, or the Pro iMac, that'll have Xeons in it and extended memory and all the rest of that. Maybe, you know, honestly, even if you're a pro, the quad core iMacs are nice machines, and you can put up to 64 gigs of RAM in them. So if you need a machine right now and you don't want to go to what's soon to be obsolete hardware like the 2013 Mac Pro, just get a new iMac and spec it out, make it work for you. You know, they're great machines. It's got a great monitor in it, and just go that way. Before we end for the night, I haven't talked about this a whole lot, even though I had the commercial I played earlier talked about the book that I wrote. The book is called The Maltese Cube. Now, this isn't a commercial for the book. If you want to go to Amazon or the iBook store and either buy the book as an ebook or a physical book, great. Thank you very much. But something that I always wanted to do with this story was turn it into a radio drama, which is kind of the inspiration that brought the story about. That of course, and the film noir of the 40s and 50s. So I took the original story and I started to kind of break it up and turn it into a 12-chapter radio drama or podcast drama. And I was fortunate enough to get Carl Madden of the Mac and Forth podcast online, and we spent hours going back and forth over the book and over the initial script that I wrote. And we did what I wanted to do. We turned it into a 12-chapter radio drama that hopefully will be released within the next year. When exactly is going to depend on how quickly I can find people to record the different parts. I have a couple people lined up already. Carl's going to do a voice. I'm hoping that Gaz will do a voice. I got a call from a woman named Erin Hurst, who does this like amazing Harley Quinn from the Batman animated series, not the Suicide Squad movie. And she's going to do a voice, and when you hear her, you'll be blown away. She has this she can manipulate her voice like a master. It was amazing to listen to her. And a couple of other people as well. Some have committed, some have not. And as I get more and more people involved in the project, and I start getting some audio back from their parts of the script, then I can start putting it together. One thing I don't want to do is, get everything for like the first chapter or the second chapter or third chapter, start putting it out, and then get stuck because I'm still waiting on audio for some of the other chapters and some of the other characters. So I'm not going to release anything on this until I have all the audio and I'm able to complete the project. Now, one of the other things that I'm going to do with it is in between each chapter as they get released, for the people that want to, I'm going to talk to some of the principals involved in recording it, why they decided they wanted to do this, because honestly, there is no money at all in this. I have no budget. And things like the website, you go to maltesecube.com, bare basics, kind of like the same thing with the Mac to the Future Go.com site that I put up for this live cast. There's just not a whole lot there right now, other than, the live casts that I put up each week as I manage to finish all this. But more will come. But I'm very excited about this project. And this is, originally I thought I was going to do the main character's voice, or I was going to do the narrator's voice. And I think that with so many people out there with so much talent who are willing to donate their time to help me put this labor of love together, I'm blown away with the response that I've gotten for the script, and I'm very, very grateful to everyone who has volunteered to do a voice. And, thank you. I know that there are some people even in this the Mac to the Future page who have, if I could talk, things would be so much better, who have volunteered their time as well to help me to kind of get this project off the ground. Thank you all so very much. And I mean that sincerely. It's so appreciated. So I think that is going to wrap it up for the evening. Thank you all so very, very much for being here tonight. We got some great comments, and a whole bunch of people showed up. And I love the fact that you guys have taken the time to come and watch me as I struggle through this. I know that over on the Mac to the Future page, I have asked for some suggestions on how to make the live cast better. And one of the things that was suggested was doing it a little bit earlier, like at 7 o'clock. So let me know if if would that make it easier for people to come and watch this. The only thing that kind of holds me back on that right now, I'm seeing a chiropractor for some problems with, I've talked about it, problems with my neck and shoulder. And I see him 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. And hopefully if I go to 7 o'clock, I'm hoping that wouldn't interfere with the start time for the show, because I try to do this right when I say I'm going to do it. So if I say 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night Eastern Standard Time, by God, I want to be in front of this computer at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and doing the live cast. But we will see how it goes. Thank you all again so much for being here tonight, and I hope to see you next week. And I think that's about it. Thanks again. Good night.